All right, what's going on, everybody? My name is Amal. I am the owner of the Alpha Trades community. And today, my goal is to give y'all an update on the market and give you the game plan for May 2022. So I created a pitch deck here of giving y'all an idea of what I think has happened over the last month of April, as well as how I believe we're going to head into May and June, which will be the end of Q2. So let's do a quick recap of April, right? April, the things that we got right within the Advantage community, we anticipated the beginning of Q2 to be rocky. It would probably provide a deeper pullback for BTC towards 41K. So if y'all remember, Q2 actually ended somewhere around, Q1 ended somewhere around here and Q2 began right here. So we were around $47,000, $48,000. We anticipated a pullback around 41K as a deeper pullback, and then quite possibly maybe a sharper pullback all the way to 37,000. So we're pretty darn close to 37,000, but in the midst of all this, there's been a lot of chop, which we did not anticipate, and I'll cover that in a second. So we calculated things right regarding BTC. The time frame was a little off. We anticipated altcoins to come back 20 to 25% from their local highs. So for example, something like NEAR, which is trading somewhere around $19 or $20 here at the beginning of Q2, we anticipated a 20 to 25% pullback, which would have been $14 to $15, except now here we are, right? We're down about 40%, okay? So whether it's NEAR, whether it's AVAX being down almost 40 to 50%, same thing, right? Beginning of Q2 happened right here. Currently, AVAX is down about 43, 44%. A majority of altcoins right now are down about 35, 40, 45% from the beginning of April. So from the beginning of Q2. That is something that was very, very tough to anticipate. We also correctly anticipated that 2022 as an entire year was going to be rocky and it's going to be a very, very choppy year. Okay, we're right about that. It's just been hellishly choppy. Now let's go to the things that we got wrong, which were many, many things. Okay, I'm not here to just talk about all the things that we got right. Things that we got wrong. The depth of the BTC pullback in alts has been much more prolonged and much more severe. So when I first anticipated BTC to pull back from here, I anticipated by the end of April, we would probably start pushing back up and heading towards our target of $52,000 to $58,000 up here. Obviously, we got that wrong. It was a much sharper pullback, a whole lot of ranging, and a whole lot of grinding down behavior. And Bitcoin was probably the easiest chart compared to other altcoins. Altcoins themselves had a very, very tough time in the market. AVAX, which is one of the strongest altcoins, has faced very, very tough pressure from the sellers. It had a sharp rejection around $100. And after that, it came back into the $80 range, rejected that with a double top, and then sold off some more. Solana, same thing. NEAR protocol, same thing. Luna, same thing. It was a very tough environment for the altcoin space. And I'm not quite sure that the altcoins themselves are even done yet. We'll talk about that later. Other things that we got wrong. So obviously, like I said, altcoins are down anywhere between 40 to 55% from the April highs. In less than a month, altcoins dropped 40 to 50%. That is a very stark reminder that altcoins are very, very high beta, and they're extremely volatile, especially to the downside. BTC, on the other hand, from the beginning of April till now, okay, so if we put in a movement right here, till now, BTC is only down 17%, right? Generally, the rule of thumb is when altcoins are going down compared to BTC, they're doubling the amount of losses to the downside, or at least like 1.5x to the downside. That's a general rule of thumb. The other things that we got wrong. So as I stated earlier, we were looking to position long in April, hoping that we would get that pullback, which we did, but we positioned long a little bit too early, and we positioned a little bit too heavy in the altcoin space, okay? we would have been better off had we just positioned in BTC if we were thinking about getting long. But this is part of a larger thesis, a larger narrative that I still have in mind, which is Q2 is going to end positive. Now, obviously, April, the first month of Q2, has been extremely terrible. However, that doesn't mean that May and June have to be equally negative or just as bad as we head into those months. Levered trades, whatever we put on, whether it was a short or a long, got chopped to death. A perfect example for me was I anticipated that the APE token was going to run up. So here's a perfect example of where I got into APE. And my overall thesis was, so I got into APE somewhere around like here, okay? Around this area, I anticipated APE to run up and then start to break down because I saw this big funnel, this big rising wedge, right? And I stated that, hey, I don't think that this thing is going to break out, but if it does, let me cut my trade right as it starts breaking out. Okay, so around this area right here, around $21 or so, once we started to see this big candle pop, I said, okay, it looks like this rising wedge is wrong. This first big candle pop that we got, I got out of this trade. As you can see, APE ran up to 27.5. But my overall thesis for this was, I believe this NFT token craze is a little bit too much, especially on the Bored Ape community and the Ape token drop. I thought that there were going to be too many sellers. This was a event that was going to be sell the news style event where everybody was buying Ape token for the land sale. I personally thought that the pressure was going to be relieved. And as we head into the land sale, which was the 30th of April, we would start, quickly dropping. Unfortunately, I was a little bit too early to that trade again, right? I got in around 17 or 18 or so, got stopped out around 21. This thing ran up higher, but then ultimately, after that, it collapsed back down. The reason I'm mentioning this to you is sometimes you may be early to your trade, you may be early to your thesis. And unfortunately, that is as good as being wrong. Okay, because when you're early, that position may bleed against you so much so that you will feel wrong and you'll feel dumb for being in that trade. But if you stick around long enough and that thing ultimately plays out, right? That feels good, but unfortunately it also sucks because it played out in the way that you wanted, but you were not part of the trade. And that is just a fact of trading. That more often than not, that thesis will ultimately play out, but it will take longer and it will run up the position against you for a much deeper price than you were feeling comfortable with. And then it will ultimately do what you were expecting it to do. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because it directly correlates to where we are in the current market conditions. If you've been watching my videos long enough, the one thing that I've been saying for Q2 is I believe that Q2 is probably going to end positive. Unfortunately, April ran so hard against me that it once again makes me question my overall thesis. Because the conditions in the market and macro are so bad. For example, US equities have had their worst performance week ending since April, since the 2008 financial crisis, one of the worst performing months since the 2000 bubble pop, the tech bubble pop. Here's a perfect visual of how this looks. Okay, if you look at this, right? This is the chart of the month, worst month since October 2008, worst April since April 2000, just before the Fed raised rates in 0.5% in May 2000. If you look at this chart, it basically looks like complete death, right? However, the one thing that you could tell from this chart is that we've not had such a brutal sell-off, especially on a monthly basis, and then subsequently had another big month of selling. Okay, it just doesn't happen that way, especially when two things come together. Number one, the indices themselves look like this, and number two, when the bigger cap components of the S&P 500, right, or NASDAQ. So in the S&P 500, you have the biggest weighted companies, which are Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, and Google. Okay, if we look at these companies right here, right, some of the biggest cap companies, okay, here's kind of how they look on a multi-month basis or a multi-year basis, yes, it looks like crap right now, but overall, this is a pretty sharp pullback. These companies are the hiding spot for big investors in the world. The biggest funds, the biggest institutions, the biggest pensions decide to hold on to their positioning in Apple, in Microsoft, and Google. So when these get shaken up, that means something is really wrong in the market. However, once again, my overall thesis is that I believe that near term, a lot of these companies have hit key oversold levels. Okay, they're aggressively oversold in my opinion, whether it's on a daily or a weekly basis. And there is generally a spot of safety that bigger funds and bigger institutions just will not let go. Unless the entire world is ending, unless we're about to have a nuclear war or something, these companies are the safest spots in the entire world. And this is where I bring to my thesis that I believe big tech right here, which by the way had its earnings last week. Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Visa, PayPal, a lot of the large companies had their earnings last week. And in my opinion, I thought they were relatively decent for the environment that we're facing right now. It was pretty good earnings. Like if you look at the current environment, we have high inflation, rising rates, the dollar is ripping everybody's face off. If you look at the dollar right now, here's a look at the dollar, okay? Remember, if you don't know anything about the dollar, all you really need to know is a rising dollar equals de-risking or asset markets that are going down because people are piling into the dollar, right? That's the general thought process. So rising dollar equals stocks going down equals crypto going down. The dollar over the last few months has been just destroying everything. However, in this particular area, the dollar looks like it's coming into a key high, into a key inflection point, that if it does decide to start turning around, this might be the relief that we may need for US equity markets and crypto to start going up. So if the dollar goes down, I'm expecting crypto and equity markets to go up, okay? It's a very simple correlation that you need to keep in mind, all right? So the point is that in this terrible environment, inflation high, raising rates, DXY ripping, equities, completely bottom, Russia-Ukraine war, commodities, supply chain issues, right? And all this stuff, what we have is the companies, the biggest companies in the world, still not really completely shaken, right? Yes, they've had a sharp pullback. Yes, it looks bad, but unless we're going to have another week or two of massive collapse due to some other external factor, we are very close to bottoming out, in my opinion. Okay, so here's kind of where we get to the bullish side of things. And I'm going to go through the bullish and the bearish side because I don't want to just seem like I'm just bullish, because honestly, I've been proven wrong the entire month, right? I am, trust me, very on the fence of my entire bullish thesis right now. Okay, I'm very close to starting to put on hedges or starting to de-risk my long side of the portfolio into then just, going short whenever the market starts ripping back up, okay? Which would mean that, if the market starts pushing up and I feel like we don't have enough velocity, we don't have enough bullish catalysts on the way up, I might have to start trimming those long positions and start to go short. But I don't feel that way yet, and I'll explain to you why. We often have this saying in the market, which we call climbing the wall of worry, right? And what I mean by that is when things look really bad, when you have this kind of data, when the statistics look like this, where you have one of the worst months since the biggest financial crisis that we've ever had, the biggest tech bubble pop, when you have inflation high, rising rates, dollar ripping, equities broken down, Russia-Ukraine war, commodity supply chain issues, right? When you have all these issues, we have this saying in the market, which is climbing the wall of worry. And climbing the wall of worry is simply this: when things look so aggressively bad, when everybody is too scared to jump into the market and everybody feels that it is much easier to sell, it is much easier to go short, it is definitely not a conducive environment to buy. When that is the case, that is probably the area where the market is very, very close to bottoming, or it's already bottomed. Before you even know it, it may have already bottomed and it may have already started to begin its ascent up. And this is where scenario number one takes place. I believe that in the bullish scenario, because things are so bad, right? And because we've sold off so aggressively, again, we've sold off so much, whether it's in crypto, whether it's in the biggest tech stocks in the world, right? Even if you look at commodities, or if you look at the dollar, which looks like it's peaked, all these things taken into account, okay? The scenario one is that we are close to the bottom, or we've bottomed already, and we now begin our ascent headed into May, okay? We may start a new bull trend in both equities and crypto. I'm not quite sure if we're going to start a multi-month, multi-year bull market, but I believe that temporarily this is a high probability scenario. My larger thesis was that Q2 would end positive, Q3 would be choppy, and end of Q3, Q4, we would start going down again. I don't know how true that will be, but at the very least, I was expecting a up move in the market sooner rather than later. Scenario two, which is bullish, is maybe we chop till the end of Q2. We just stay range bound, right? So for example, if you're looking at BTC, this might be a massive range that we just kind of traverse in like this by the end of Q2, okay? Then I don't know what happens. Maybe we start breaking up from here, or maybe we start nuking down by Q3 or Q4. I'm not quite sure, okay? But that would be probably a bullish scenario. Now, for these bullish scenarios to come true, we need narratives. Markets never just randomly go up unless there are some narratives that are dying and some narratives that are emerging. Some bullish narratives that may need to come up. Fed maybe stops raising rates. Maybe instead of quantitative tightening, they don't. Maybe they start easing again. Maybe the Russia-Ukraine situation alleviates itself. Either it's a treaty, either it's a ceasefire, either the West just says, all right, guys, just take Ukraine. We don't give a shit. I don't know, right? But remember, geopolitics in the world is very, very fragile at this time. People are looking to basically end all this high inflation, the war, the uncertainty, the political turmoil, et cetera, okay? And for that to happen, you may have to forge a deal, something that most people may not like. So I don't know what turns us around in the macro, but look for these things. Crypto narratives, now these are interesting because in terms of art NFTs, I think the NFT environment has been doing better probably than most of crypto, but definitely not as good as we would have expected, right? We don't have a broad NFT movement so far like we did in 2021. We have an isolated movement in key collections that are doing well. So for Ethereum, that may be Bored Ape releasing their ape token, Azukis, Doodles, key collections. In Solana, there might be DGods and OK Bears and Soul Gods, right? These things. But now emerging narratives in crypto, now these are interesting because these have not been tapped, in my opinion. Music NFTs is something that I'm paying attention to very, very closely, similar to what I did in 2020 and 2021, which was the art NFTs. And music NFTs are different, right? You guys should check out this Koopa Troopers newsletter. It's about the music landscape and how music NFTs might work. I found this newsletter, this piece, very informative, things that I didn't know about how music NFTs might work, how they might accrue value, how the artists themselves can make money through music NFTs and music NFT exposure. Nifty Gateway is one of the platforms that you may want to pay attention to, where you might be able to get some music NFTs. Please do your own research, okay? So you have a couple of events coming up, or events, I guess, that just happened, verified. So you could go here, verified drops. Let's do this, okay? It looks like April ended already, but let's see what May has coming up, right? You have verified drops right here, past verified drops And my thought process of music NFTs is generally stick to the verified drops, okay? Because this is something that, a lot of people are looking at, artists that are verified or music that has been verified, okay? And like I said, check out Cooper's newsletter and Cooper's piece right here on music NFTs. The other narrative that might be coming up is GameFi. Now, I personally think GameFi as a whole is already exhausted because in 2021, everybody was creating a game. And I told y'all before, a lot of these games were absolute garbage because all they were really doing was they were just making you park your money for a game to earn yield. That's not a game. That's just you forcing money into a game that generally just sucks and you're hoping to make more money out of it, right? That's not a fun game for anybody, really. And guess what? Look at the landscape of gaming. It's destroyed. I mean, from the beginning of the year, it is down 50, 60% across the board and some more, okay? So I don't really know if gaming is going to be the next, big narrative that's going to develop. There's something that you want to keep your eye on because you never know what the next generation of gaming projects might bring up. They might bring up good games that don't just involve cash grabs or yield farming or staking. Okay, you want to keep your eyes open. Bridges are something else that I've been paying attention to. We will be dropping an article on bridges this coming week. But for now, what I want y'all to do is do your own research in bridges. What are bridges? Why are they necessary? What are the different kinds of bridges that are out there? What has happened in bridges so far? The only thing I've heard over the past few months are bridges are extremely dangerous and they're extremely vulnerable in terms of their security. I'm sure you've heard of the Ronin bridge hack. You've heard of a wormhole getting hacked, right? These two bridges amounted to almost $800 or $900 million of total hacks. And of course, there's many other smaller bridges that got hacked over the last few months. So bridges are extremely dangerous and they're extremely vulnerable, but they're a necessary component for the growth of crypto. Because if you believe that crypto as a whole is going to move between different layers and ecosystems, such as AVAX and Near and Luna and Atom and Solana and Ethereum, et cetera, if you believe that the world of crypto is going to move through these different ecosystems with bridges, then that means that bridges are going to be a necessary component for the success and growth of all these ecosystems. So definitely do your research in different bridges that are out there, what bridges are, what kind of bridges that you should be paying attention to, okay? And then, of course, we may have the general news of more banks, sovereign funds, other governments entering Bitcoin, entering crypto, right? That is obviously a big thing, okay? But the point is we need some spark, okay? Whether it's a macro spark or a crypto native spark, you need something to push the market up, right? Now, the other part of the scenario is just being bearish. We already know that the environment looks like shit, right? This is the environment that we're facing right now. It seems very obvious that things are very tough. And maybe things don't turn around for the rest of 2022. And maybe we are in a 2018 style drawdown. If y'all were not around in 2018, trust me, it sucked. It was bad. Almost everybody left the space. Almost everybody lost all their money. Okay, it was bad. If you're not familiar with my community, Alpha Trades, we were previously known as Cryptosomniac. We grinded all the way through 2018. Okay, we stayed through the bear markets. Unlike some of the communities now, which only start popping up when the bull markets are resuming, we've gone all the way into 2017. We grinded all through 2018. We stayed around for 2019. We were there for the drop in 2020, and we were there for the big bull run in 2021. And we're here for the 2022 sideways chop, bull market, bear market, anything that you throw at us, because we're not leaving. This is a space that I believe is fundamentally going to change the world. Even if it has a bunch of scams and a bunch of Ponzi's that you might have to deal with, it doesn't matter, because the overall growth in technology regarding crypto is undeniable. And it is going to change the world in a way that we definitely want to be a part of. So my community will be here to stay. Okay. If you want to join our community, you can go to thealphatrades.com, hit the products page, and you can join our Advantage membership subscription. For $97 per month, you get videos like this at least twice a day, or at least once a day if the markets, are kind of calm. But the point is that you will get videos and you will get analysis like this in an unbiased way, because I'm not here to just shill you, random garbage and just keep pumping rainbows up your butt and keep saying we're bullish. I've gone short many times over the previous years, and I believe many times that we're going to have deep, terrible bear markets. It's just right now that I believe the market is so fundamentally dislocated and so fearful that it is hard for me to see that the remainder of May and June is going to be bearish, right? But nonetheless, I still want to talk about the bearish side of things, just so we're not blindsided. So what are the bearish side of things? Well, scenario one, the beginnings of capitulation has started. Last week was a glimpse of what we're going to be facing next week and the next few weeks. Maybe Microsoft and Apple and Google are just beginning their sell-off in the market. It's possible. Some of these assets, right? If you look at Microsoft, Amazon, Google, if you look at, Tesla or growth stocks, some of them are down 30, 40, 50, 70% from their highs. They look like crypto shit coins, right? Some of these US equity companies, okay? So they may have already finished their capitulation, but maybe there's more to go. We don't know, right? The point is that when markets are showing momentum to the downside, do not question it. Do not try to time the market and say, this is the bottom, et cetera, et cetera. Either you stick to your thesis and you keep dollar cost averaging on the way down because you don't care how much further the market goes down because you're there to buy, or you are putting on hedges on the way down as you keep buying on the way down as well. There's multiple ways to play it. But the point is that we may have begun our capitulation last week, and this is part of the bear scenario. And then in the coming few weeks, we're going to have a final blow. BTC might drop anywhere between 30K to 25K. It could go all the way to 20K. I don't know. Alts might drop another 30 to 50% from here. Imagine Solana going down from, $90 where it's at right now to maybe $50 or $45. It's possible, right? I don't think it's likely, but it is possible. Okay. However, I believe that for this scenario to happen, I think equities will also have to drag down further. So next week, we have to see what kind of market are we facing? Are we going to see another big sell-off in equities, right? Is the US stock market, are the indices, like the futures that we're looking at right now, are they going to get dragged down further? Okay, if so, then it is very likely that crypto is going to get dragged down. I mean, there's no question about it. Everything relies right now on US equities, okay? Because that is the biggest market in the world, and it creates the overall momentum, the money flows, the narrative shifts, the sentiment shifts in the market. So the US equity market is something that I pay attention to very, very closely. Scenario number two, again, bearish narrative. We have a slight relief in 1 to 2 weeks in May, and then begin a large leg down for the rest of May and June, and possibly just continue to grind down in Q3 and Q4 of 2022, similar to what happened in 2018, which was, like I said, this just boring, grinding down bear market, and then you have your final capitulation drop like you did in December 2018. Maybe. It's not impossible, right? Conditions in crypto can be really, really rough, and I get it, right? You're trying to do the best that you can to trade this market. You don't want to blow up your entire account. You don't want to do silly things and buy, random shit coins. The best piece of advice or non-financial advice I can give you is focus on the good quality stuff. Do your own research, right? Join communities that are passing on good information, okay? Meaning, what are they looking at? What are emerging narratives? And maybe you don't find my community that helpful. I feel like we're pretty unbiased, But if you find good communities that you want to be a part of, and they're giving you good actionable information or good alpha or good analysis on a day-to-day basis, those are the communities that are going to show you what is the next big sector that is breaking out, what is the next big sector that's pushing, okay? And that's where you want to join the trend. A lot of the times what happens with retail is that in bull markets, they literally join at the very top and they sell at the very bottom, and they start leaving when the market gets boring or the market starts going down. I've seen this in our own community, and I've seen this year over year, whether it's Twitter or YouTube or any other social media platform, or even within your friends and family. No one gives a shit when prices are going down or going sideways, right? People start leaving, they start calling things a scam. This was a bubble and it's going to pop, and Bitcoin's going to go to 10,000, Ethereum is going to go to 0, and altcoins are going to go to 0, right? They start talking all this garbage. There is some truth to it. A majority of altcoins are garbage, okay? I'll be honest with that. But if you actually focus on the good quality stuff, if you do fundamental research on understanding where the space is heading, where the money is, where the users are, where the activity is, right? Where the scams are not, okay? When you do good fundamental research, I promise you, you just have to survive till the next bull leg in the market, and then you will be very, very successful in the next leg up. It's just how it is. It's how it's been in every crypto bull cycle. Biggest success stories in crypto are not made when the markets are aggressively bullish. They're made when those that stick around in the bearish environments go through the bearish environments and stick around for the next bull leg, okay? Because that's where you get dirt cheap prices, right? If you do good research and you understand where the space is and where it's going, you are able to buy the right things. You are able to navigate the environment properly so you don't blow up your account, you don't make dumb mistakes, and you trade it successfully. Okay. In our community, right, one thing I've done is I opened up this 5K challenge, and every year I'm going to trade at the beginning of the year with $5,000 and see how I can grow it every single year. Okay. And so far, in my opinion, I think we're doing just fine. We're only 4 or 5 months in. I have the rest of the year to grow this account, and I am very, very confident that I will grow it successfully. Okay. You just got to ask yourself, what will you be doing? What kind of plans do you have for the account, for your growth, for your success story? Okay. If you don't have one, make sure you find one. Make sure you find a community or something that can help you become successful in this environment. I'm not here to provide you financial advice. Like I said, I'm going to do my best to give y'all an update on the market, an update on information. Sorry, this stuff is kind of old, so I apologize. But I'm here to give y'all anything that I see presented to me in the market and how I see fit for my own benefit, and I will share that with you. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. I hope y'all hit the thumbs up on the video. Please do join our Discord link. The link is at the top right of the video or at the bottom of the YouTube description. Leave me a comment of your thoughts, what you think is happening in the market. What are other areas that I should be paying attention to? Am I missing something from the crypto narratives, right? Different resources that you want me to pay attention to, okay? What are other altcoins that I should be looking at? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much, everybody. Good luck to y'all. Take care, join our community, and have a good rest of the month. Take care.